Pastor, we've been discussing the nature and character of Satan in a previous video, but now we want to go to the origin of Satan. There are very many theories around the origin of Satan, but I think the most common one is because God created everything, he therefore created Satan. Because Satan, if Satan is part of the world or the universe, then it is God's creation, because we say, at least Christians say, that God created everything. Yeah, so we're here to understand what is the origin of Satan. Of course, there's another theory that's in the Bible especially, which talks about Satan being a fallen angel. He was in heaven, and then he rebelled, and then he was thrown on the earth. So we just want to understand what is the origin of Satan. Was Satan created? If so, for what was the motivation? Why would God create a terrible guy like that?
I think the best undisputed answer to that question of the origin of Satan is we don't know.
We don't know the origin of Satan. It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery. We don't know the origin of Satan. That is the best undisputed answer and response to that question.
Deuteronomy 29:29.
Deuteronomy 29:29. What is revealed is to us and our children, and what is sacred.
The secret things belong to the Lord.
That those belong to God. So that is the best undisputed answer. But since we are human beings, we are inquisitive, even in areas where we do not know. And we like providing answers and filling the gaps. Unfortunately, that is something wrong. Some gaps must be left as gaps. Yes, some gaps must be left as gaps. But anyway, we are human beings. We are not willing to let those gaps there. So what we have done, we have made assumptions about the origin of Satan. And there are two assumptions. One is mine. The other is a public assumption. The first public assumption that is known is that Satan was an angel in heaven created by God, who later rebelled in heaven, and he was thrown on earth. Okay? And that assumption is actually deduced from proof texting the Bible and majority poor hermeneutics, therefore, where they refer to Ezekiel chapter 14 and Isaiah chapter 14. And they say that that oracle is about what happened in heaven between the archangel, that angel, and his God. But we all know that the prophet was not talking about that. He was talking about the Cyrus the king, etc. But there's no problem to use the Bible in that manner. However, that assumption that Satan was an angel in heaven can come with problems and challenges. First of all, is that actually communicates that it's God who created Satan.
Yeah.
However, in their defense, they say when God was creating the angel, he was not creating Satan, he was creating a perfect angel because he was perfect.
But God knows everything.
God knows
everything. He knew Satan would
fall. He knew Satan. Now those are the problems that come with it. So God knew that Satan would come from this perfect angel, but he still went ahead and created that perfect angel. So that is the problem with that first assumption, right? And the other problem is he was an angel. Now angels are not free will beings. So the question, yes, naturally angels do not have that free will. Angels do not look like human beings. They do not have free will. So the question is, how did that kind of unrighteousness
come out of
perfection? That is also another problem. But let me first finish with this second problem. Because angels are not free will beings, it is impossible for an angel to choose against. Because angels do not even choose. Okay, they are told what to do and they do that exactly.
They are agents.
They are agents. That's problem one. Problem three, he was created perfect. So how did the unrighteousness
come out of perfection?
Come out of perfection. Because that is also problematic. When we go into the next world where we are going, we are not safe for that matter.
Because sin sneaked into heaven.
Sin sneaked into heaven.
Isn't it?
But they have a defense for that and against that. The defense is in Revelation. It says that salvation has come to heaven. So they will tell you that heaven already experienced salvation. Isn't it? But you see, which is okay. It really works like that. But again, finally, that major problem again is then there's the origin of Satan is God. So in God came evil. Out of
evil came out of God.
Evil came out of God. And I think that is also problematic. That enough. So that is the assumption. And that assumption has created a very dangerous theology where God is the source of both good and evil. And you will see the Jews actually communicating that. And most of the mainstream religions actually understand God as the source of both good and evil. Monism or dualism. So why? Because after all, even Satan was created by who?
By God.
By God. So there is no Satan literally. There is God and his creature that is tormenting us. And when you look at the book of Job, you will see that it's God actually who gives authority, who orders Satan to go and torture.
Satan asks for permission.
Asks for permission to go and torture. So that is the problem with that assumption that the origin of Satan comes from God, is God. I have also my own personal assumption that has got problems as well. I argue that the origin of Satan is human beings, is humanity. Satan is as old as our creation and our existence, isn't it? Why? Because we are the only free will beings created in the image of God. For our creation to be possible, they had to be evil as an alternative that we'll be choosing from. So, if you are accusing God for Satan, you should also equally accuse him for your creation. Because God had only one alternative, to deal with evil, not to create you. And I normally tell people, I normally look at that look Tom has given me. I normally tell people that if you want to get rid of all the problems and evil in this world, all you need to do is to take all humanity out of the planet, and the planet will be okay. It will have no problem. 90% of the problems that we experience in this world, including diseases, isn't it, is us. So we and evil are one and the same. Why? Because we are free will beings, isn't it? So God had no alternative about that. The only alternative he had was not to create us. So what he did, because he wanted to create us so much and so badly, he decided that he creates us as we are free will beings. And then he comes and deals and negotiates with us how to deal with evil. And that is what the story of salvation, the Heilsgeschichte, is about. Dealing with evil while retaining and maintaining human beings as free will beings. And this is why when we are saved from this ruckus, finally, we are going to be saved from who we are, first of all. We are going to be transformed, dressed in new bodies with a new mindset, isn't it? But again, free will beings. We will not need to choose again because we already know the alternative to life. Because where there isn't life, there is death. We have already experienced what death is. Okay? So we will not now need to choose like we do not know. That is why the tree in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 and 17, it is called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now we are knowledgeable about death and evil. We will not need in eternity again to investigate that knowledge, because that knowledge we already have. So for me, my assumption and my guess is that God had no alternative. When he decided to create humanity, he created that. I was seated here, and then Francis and someone gave us an example, which I normally use, of the default setting. Because for me, Satan and sin is the default setting of the creation of humanity. When you make a bicycle, isn't it? You have also by default set people falling from that bicycle as they ride. It is a default setting. There's no way water can be poured on you and you are not wet. So for me, the origin of Satan is the default setting of the creation of humanity. Thank you so much.